Here, some really big news out of Turkey. I'm going to make some calls on where I see gold, crypto, where I see everything going. Because in Turkey right now, they're literally pulling out of their lira. So much so that Apple closed simply because they wanted to get out from underneath that currency as well. We're having some really big challenges coming to Turkey, Argentina, a lot of other places. And what I think ultimately is going to happen here is people are going to get afraid of their own currency and they're going to try to get that money out and into things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoins, gold, silver, even vehicles, watches, artwork, all of these things. They're just going to try to get, a lot of people are going to start trying to get their money into something that's going to hold value better. Because what we're seeing around the world looks to me like a big problem. Let me screen share this. Let's give a little what's up to everybody. I'm going to say what's up in the chat. Look at what's happening right now. So this is where we are stepping into again. So when we're seeing these types of headlines, to me, what this says is that we could have a situation with a lot more stimulus coming very soon. And if this does in fact happen, rates are going to be kept low. They're going to keep interest rates low, and they're likely going to continue printing a ton of money. And then ultimately, at that point in time, if they move rates even slightly, things are just going to crash, absolutely crash. But I mean, things are getting pretty scary. This is on Facebook, so things are getting pretty scary here. But I mean, here, look, this Business Insider. Look at this. Apple has stopped sales in Turkey after lira crashed 15% in a day. The country's currency crisis is so dire that people are buying upmarket electronic imports as investments. Turks attempting to buy iPhones and other electronics received online error messages on Wednesday, including from Apple's Inc. local website, after a historic 15% plunge in the lira in a day before caused havoc for prices. The currency slipped back towards its record low on Wednesday, driven by worries over broader fallout for the economy after President Erdogan defended recent sharp rate cuts despite widespread criticism and calls for reversal. So this is, but what's fascinating here is that what the citizens are calling for is for him to put a stop to the madness on their currency. And he's saying no. They're going to continue keeping rates low, and they're going to keep the direction, which is going to be heavy stimulus. Lira lost 43% of its value this year. 43%. So imagine, you're a school teacher. Let's say you're making $50,000 a year, and your currency loses purchasing power of 43%. What does that do to your lifestyle? It brings you basically to poverty. It brings you to a place of real desperation. And that is what's happening. People are literally just being forced into poverty through this hyperinflation that we're seeing. And more than 22% since the beginning of last week alone. Think about that just for a second. The lira lost 43% of its value this year, and it lost 22% in the last week. So we're starting to see other countries take a more of a Venezuela approach, where you're almost going to need like a wheelbarrow. And then again, I'm not fear, like this isn't fear. 22% in a single week. If the traditional inflation is 3% a year, that's 9 years worth of inflation inside of a week. 9 years of inflation inside of a week. In turn, good prices in the local currency have seen an effective sharp discount compared to prices elsewhere, with retailers struggling to keep up with price adjustments amid the market turmoil. A Turkish spokesperson for Apple was not immediately available for comment. Apple's Turkish website stopped sales of most products, displaying a not currently available message. A Reuters query showed the local prices of iPhones and computers were some 10% below U.S. prices following the sudden depreciation of the lira. A sales rep at an Istanbul Apple store said people were thinking of electronics as investments as much as items to use. That's why I really do think what's going to happen here is we are going to start to see so much money flow into crypto, into gold, into silver, into everything else, because the savers are going to be the losers in this scenario where they keep rates low and they make money so readily available that, essentially if you're saving money, you might as well just flush it down the toilet in Turkey. It is pretty surreal with the economy and all, but people see it as a store of value and flock to stores. They know they'll be able to sell it a year later for more than what they paid the person requesting anonymity. The worst and best to buy. Consumers are flocking to upmarket import brands, primarily electronics, cosmetics, a Turkish e-com company official said. The lira meltdown coincides with Black Friday sales and the start of New Year discounting, stokes fear that some consumer goods would not be available or face big price hikes. Most marketplaces are asking their big sellers to keep the prices steady and refrain from increases at least during the discount week. As both the sellers and the marketplace need each other, sellers obliged, an e-com official based in Istanbul told Reuters. Kaner, a graphic designer in Istanbul in the market for electronic scooter, said it's the worst time to spend money, but there is not a better time. Prices may look expensive now, but they are cheaper than what they're going to be next week. They're thinking 1 week out. You lose 22% of your purchasing power in a single week. Every single day is costing you 3%, 4%. It's almost a year's inflation in a day in Turkey. In Argentina is worse. Latin America, also bad. Japan, they're printing a ton of money. Big concerns in Czech Republic, in Germany, and now in America. We're starting to see a lot of big headlines. Let's see if there's anything new that they just came out with here. So literally every 15 minutes, let's see, now in Amsterdam, right? South Africa. Yeah, so what we're likely going to continue seeing here is more inflation. Overall, shoppers in Istanbul were gloomy. We were waiting for surprises. What are we going to do? Said Sammy, a fishmonger. We live in a rented house. There's also gas, electricity, and water. I don't know how to deal with it. The lights off, still 800 lira, $63 electric bill. I even closed the shop at night without having had a single customer in the day, but the bill is still 800 lira. It's impossible not to go crazy, he said. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that we're going to be stepping into a situation of inflation, of real hyperinflation? Because my big fear is what we see over the next month. If we look at what happened in New York, they basically already called it. They already called the emergency. Now, if this happens, right, and just throwing this out there. So if this does in fact happen, they called this yesterday. So if they're getting ready for the big problems, right, in New York, and we start to see closures, the only way that they can keep that going is by stimulus payments, is by giving out more money, because people aren't going to be able to work, right? If that does happen. And then ultimately, they're going to have to keep rates low, and they're going to dilute the dollar even more. We've already seen a very, very big decrease in our purchasing power. The dollar store is now the $1.25 store, basically. All GM foods are going up 20% in January. So what I think is going to happen is I think that the smart thing to do right now is to ask yourself, hey, how can I store some money? How can I store value? And also, how can I put myself in a position to make more money from home and exercise those options? Because what I think is happening right now is we're going to have a scenario over the next 3 months that is going to push people to a place of desperation, right? And so the big question is, okay, well, if you are an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, how can you pivot with the times ahead of time, right? And when prices go low, and when purchasing power dies and people are desperate, people are going to be selling off collectibles and assets as well. There's going to be opportunity likely to buy, but your purchasing power is going to be dying as well from your currency. So if you're just saving money and you're not investing in your business now and trying to push yourself into a really good place, things could get harder. I mean, when you look at what's happening all over the world right now, we know that it's likely going to be big problems are going to be coming to America in this economy. So it just comes down to how can you hold on? One other thing, someone just mentioned this, and I think this is very interesting. How is Tesla $1,100 a share? What are the odds that, and this is just an idea, you guys tell me if you guys think I'm right, but Elon sold 10 billion last week. All right. So the billionaire sold nearly 10 billion in stocks, some 9.2 million shares, right? This is 3 days old, and he started selling over the course of, roughly a week. So what are the odds that he dumps 10 billion shares and then boom, within a day, 2 days, all this new fear comes out. The stock market gets kind of a pullback, and everything is kind of changing in a different temperament. Bezos is selling a lot of stocks, a lot of shares. It's interesting timing. What do you guys think about this? Oil came down, it's for taxes. That's what they say. I mean, you can always say it's for taxes, it's to feed the poor, it's for this, it's for that, but they'll always have a cover story. Otherwise everyone's going to want to pull out. If you're pulling out 10 billion, 9.2 million shares from the company, a large stake of your portfolio, you better have a good reason. Otherwise, you're going to scare a lot of shareholders, and other people are going to pull out, and it's going to hurt your overall bottom line for the company. And yeah, I agree, Black Wolf. I agree. Here, I told major YouTuber to sell his Tesla shares ASAP. He said I was paranoid. Yeah, I mean, when we're in this massive bull run that we've been in for a very long time, we're now in a position in this economy where nearly everybody thinks that they are a great day trader or stock investor. You hop into an Uber, and that guy has a tip for you. But when markets really start to awake to what's really happening, I think we're going to see a reality check, and I think we're going to see a change in consumer confidence. I think we're going to see a completely different outlook and mindset for most people as we start stepping into a period of fear. I've seen things on, recently on TikTok where there's lines out the grocery store all the way out near the stoplight. People are starting to get scared again. Remember what happened last year when all this happened? There was real panic buying. People were stocking up on toilet paper and all these things. It's not far-fetched to say that might happen again. It might happen in the next week or two. We don't really know. But what we're seeing in the headlines, what we're seeing happen around the world, to me, equates to big problems. Every time there's more and more inflation, that means there's more people that are starving, more people pushed out of, into dependence. They're pushed out of financial freedom and out of their security of their business. But it's interesting too when you have a situation when you have Apple pulling out of Turkey over hyperinflation, essentially. When the currency is dying by 22% just in a week and lost 43% this year, and he defended cutting rates. When the leader wants to cut rates when you're having 22% inflation in a week and 43% in a year, and they don't want to raise rates. The normal reaction would be, okay, we need to raise rates. We need to start bringing these rates up to make money not so cheap and do what we can to try to, to save the lira. But when you're like, okay, let's just reduce rates, they're intentionally, in my opinion, trying to bring some real pain. At least that's what it would seem to the lira by reducing them and probably issuing more and more stimulus over the next couple months. That's my guess. I'm guessing that they're going to do more and more stimulus. Japan's already doing it. And America, I think, is going to probably step into a situation where we see more stimulus over the next 6 months. It wouldn't surprise me to see maybe 1 or 2 more stimulus packages and maybe even the introduction to a universal basic income, which is what they've been discussing. Let's see if there's been an update on this, because they've been talking about this UBI for a little while, but let's see here. But they generally give, so Compton, California, they have a guaranteed income program, right? Let's see here. This is all Los Angeles. case universal basic income. U.S. cities test effects of universal basic mobility. I bet you that they start doing this though. So LA's new basic income program, I think that they're going to be bringing in universal basic income the next 12 months. Guaranteed basic income is coming to Chicago. This is last month. See if Biden Democrats build back better plans as a summary, paid leave, climate funding, and other priorities. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So yeah, minimum wage for workers on new federal contracts rise to $15 an hour. Also, I saw this too. Germany is increasing wages, right? A 25% pay raise. A 25% pay raise in a situation where the economy is struggling. They're going to increase the wages to 2 million workers. 25%, right? What is that going to essentially do? It's going to push small businesses that are barely surviving now to the brink of a real collapse, of real problems. A 25% pay raise. And I think the total population, I think ballpark is probably around 8 million. Oh no, excuse me, not 8 million, 83 million. So you have a total 83 million. You're going to give 25 million people a pay raise. I knew it started with an 8. 80, you're essentially giving 20 million people a pay raise. 20 million people a pay raise. That's unbelievable. So we're going to see what's going to happen with this whole thing. I'm really seeing some problems, and I really see some real big indicators that I think gold, silver, those gold, silver, artwork, watches, collectible cars, even everyday vehicles, food, all of these things are going to hold value probably much better than the local currency. And what's happening in Turkey is a very good indicator of what could be coming here. I mean, what do you guys think about this? You have what just happened in New York, right? Which they just called. You have Germany given 25 million or 25%, so 20 million people a pay raise, right? You have this happening right here, 22% inflation last week alone in Turkey, 43% just this year. And then what we have happening in New York right now, where it looks like they're getting ready to kick things back up again. So yeah, I'm seeing a situation where we print a lot more money in America, a lot more money. So invest it wisely. I would highly suggest starting an online business or doing something to where it gives you a little bit more flexibility. Because right now what's happening is that employers are going to be pushed, I think, over the next couple of years. And it's going to get harder for them to stay in business. So being self-employed, having a business where it doesn't really cost you much to stay in business. You know, like an online business, for example, you can run relatively inexpensively, right? So thinking creatively and trying to pivot with the times, because we will be stepping into some very uncharted territory. And those that have options will, I think, be better positioned for it. I'm going to read some of these comments. Let's see, interest rates, the bonds, the banks, lower interest rates. Bitcoin's changing the game. No one's buying bonds at 2%. Yeah, I would not buy bonds at 2%. 1.6 million pay raise. 1.6 million pay raise. Your math's a bit off. Well, 25%. It wasn't. It was 25%. Bottom line: get your house in order. Stock up. People should have seen this coming years ago. My used car. Yeah, you know, for example, my buddy, my childhood friend, we've been friends probably, 20 years. And he came out to LA. I gave him a place to live for a year to get off his feet. And he totaled his car. I actually gave him a Honda Civic. And this Honda Civic I gave it to him for $1,500. And it was a really good price at the time. But I gave it to him. Now the car's probably worth $4,500 or $5,000, and he's driven it for a couple of years and beat the hell out of it. And it's probably increased, 200-300%. And it's because the cars are cheap. They're inexpensive to repair, and they're reliable. Hondas and Toyotas and those vehicles are very dependable. So it's interesting. Everyone's used car went up. I bought my wife a Tesla, a year or so ago, and she put 30,000 miles on the car we got into an accident, and the car barely lost any value after putting 30,000 miles on it. Like, it's crazy. The demand for cars right now is unbelievable, and I think it's only going to continue growing. Any tangible will be worth more than dollars. I fully agree. I fully agree. My car value is going up as well. Yeah, interesting. Interesting. Wanted to keep you guys up to date on that, but it's just unbelievable. 22% inflation in a single week in Turkey. 22%. I'll catch you guys on the next live stream. Hit the notification bell to join and consider subbing here. I'll catch you guys later.